So in this video I'm going to be doing a 30-minute painting challenge. I like to try and do these kinds of challenges most days, not every day, particularly when I find myself tightening up and becoming stiff as a painter, you know, when I'm starting to fuss with details and things like that. I take a step back and I just say, no, I've only got 30 minutes to paint a painting. So what that does is that makes you focus on the essential parts of a painting that are going to, you know, make a complete painting. And you've heard the artists talk about values, so that is your number one thing to think about. Your values, they have to be mapped in right at the beginning, your darks in particular, and then some of your highlights, and that is your value map, so your lights and your darks. And then you have to selectively identify the crucial factors of the painting that are going to make it a painting, but not allow you to get really bogged down in detail. And that's what I'm doing here. So I'm starting with a dark value at the bottom. Well, it's an unusual one, this one, because normally you would paint the foreground lighter. But this was, if I remember, a very colourful. I only did it today. I've forgotten already because I've done another painting since. But yeah, so this was a very colourful. That's the other thing as well, is I think you get kind of a lot of energy in a quick painting. As long as you get the values right and the flower shapes right, or whatever subject you're doing. You there is a lot of energy in a very fast painting, and it's because you don't have time to think. It's very fluid and, you know, obviously very original and you know, unique, I guess. So the other thing you have to think about is the warmth, the temperature. So you have your, you know, your cools and your warms. And obviously these flowers here are cool, so they're going to go, there's a base layer of a cool blue. And then I have, as you'll notice later, some warmer ones. Here's one coming now. And so they have more of a yellow, greeny hue temperature to them. So, but because these flowers are essentially going to be more or less white flowers with different reflected light on, I didn't want to paint them over the background, and then they would become muddy and dark. I wouldn't have had the time to solve that problem. I paint on an oil paper. It's an acid-free oil paper. It does have some disadvantages in that it does suck the paint in, so you are fighting with a kind of a drier paint. But I do loosen it up, the paint, as I go to make it the paint flow. Yeah, it can have its advantages, especially when doing these flowers, because you can get some really kind of nice highlights where the paint grips. So it has its pros and cons, but you know, for these daily challenges, I don't want to be wasting resources and using canvases and expensive boards with linen canvas on. I don't really want to get into that. These are still archival. You know, they're on acid-free paper. They're 100% cotton. They're really good, but they're just paper, so they're obviously thin. They actually do thicken up once you've got the oil on them, so I don't know whether that makes them more long lasting, but they're not going to disintegrate or anything like that, so you can still sell them, and you can still, you know, expect to have them 100 years from now, if they're properly looked after, of course. Anyhow, so back to the painting. So the background, again, the background has a lot of energy when you're painting very quickly, so I do like that. I believe it or not, I did give myself I think I painted this in 28 minutes in total. And, you know, now I'm talking over it and looking, it seems like a fantastic amount of time, but when you're painting and you're having to think and block in and work out where everything's going to go, that time does go pretty quickly, I must say. And as you can see, I'm not just throwing paint down. I'm considering what I'm doing. You know, but you can't overthink it, I think, is the point. You know, you have to just really work out, filter out what you don't need and focus on what you do need. And I think it's a very useful exercise. So there I'm just defining the, you know, the base of whatever the flower vase is sitting on, defining it and separating it from the backdrop. And then around the flowers, you're always thinking what is going to illuminate the flowers, what is best going to complement and bring the flowers forward. So you don't want necessarily, I mean, obviously, ideally you don't want a similar colour background, but sometimes that can work if you're very clever, but normally you'd probably need a lot more time for details if you are going to attempt that. There are lots of beautiful paintings where the background's very similar colour to the flowers, but they are, you know, the attention to detail around the petals and things that differentiate the flower from the background are, you know, not something you can achieve, I think, convincingly in a 30-minute challenge painting. So where am I? So I've blocked in most of the background to give me some warmth and, you know, interest, and then I've blocked in all the flowers now that I'm going to have in this painting. And as you can see, I'm moving actually quite slowly. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say, and I've said it in another video, is I did just use this one brush. So I cannot fiddle. It's quite a thick brush. It's about 1 centimetre, what would you say, 3/4 of an inch. Slightly thicker than a centimetre, I would think. And it's a flat brush. It doesn't matter if it's flat or not. You could use a filbert, but this one happens to be flat because it's nice and flexible, which helps kind of like speed me up a bit. And also, if you're going to be cutting out, fussing, you really don't want to be going in. A small brush, you just wouldn't be able to do this if you started out with a small brush. You just have too much space to cover in a too short an amount of time. So, I mean, one of the important things when you're doing this is definition. You obviously need to ground your vase or your subject. You need to provide enough value in the main objects that they appear three-dimensional. So you're going to need your shadows. And your highlights and your mid-tones are going to have to be well thought through, and they're definitely going to have to be there because, you know, even if you start off with just your three building blocks on, say for instance just one flower or your vase, and you have your shadow side, your mid-tone and your highlights, you are already in a matter of minutes going to have a fairly, you know, three-dimensional object. So you can see how you can make that happen very quickly. Same with the flowers. So you start with your cool side, your darkest spot, and then you can add your highlights. And, you know, if it has a centre, then, you know, you can plop that in as well. And you can see the paint is a bit dry. It's a bit. The paint on this paper it doesn't actually dry enough to sort of frame and use, but it dries very quickly for applying another coat, for applying paint on top. So what colours did I use? I've started using a really nice turquoise, let me think, a phthalo turquoise, I think it's called. It's really nice for dark, shadowy, cool greens in the foliage. You do have to, I don't think you can use it out of the, oh, look at that, I've even had time for a cup of coffee. That's how much time half an hour is really when you're painting. This paper is also only A4, so I didn't go any bigger than that for this purpose. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to do a huge painting in 30 minutes. So it's quite small, but not diddy. What was I saying before that? The phthalo green. Yes, you do have to tint it, I think, to get some of the variations in tone. But it's a really nice colour. I really like it. It's one of those ones, you know, when you discover it, you think, oh, I know I'm going to use this a lot. The other one, I was surprised how much I used, was Naples yellow. When I was new to oil painting, I wasn't happy with the yellows that I'd been using. And so I went into the shop and picked up a load of different yellows to try. And one of them was Naples yellow. Of course, I got it home. I thought, this is not yellow. It's like cream. It's like a taupe. Anyway, I thought, wow, what a waste of money. I'm never going to use this. Well, I ended up using it loads. I really like it. I really like it for lightening things when you don't want that. You can lighten up colours in a more warm way, if you know what I mean. I'm sorry, it's very late at night. I'm very tired and my dog is scared of something and so literally sitting on me while I narrate this. But anyway, Naples yellow, yeah, it's really nice for when you don't. Sometimes when you lighten something with white, it's quite a stark light. You know, it can be quite a dull, flat way to lighten a colour. Sometimes you really need that. You really need that translucency, but sometimes you want a bit more depth and a bit more warmth. And Naples yellow is absolutely brilliant for that. I love it. It's a great mixer. It's also great for highlighting, warmer, say for instance, as an example, a warm piece of wood that's very, you might be using browns and burnt sienna and all those sort of colours, and you're making a nice table or something to put your vase on, but the wood is very shiny and it needs a highlight, and you can tint it with a bit of Naples yellow for the highlight. It's just a really nice colour. I really like it. So I went from disappointment to, I can't do without it now. So, and you can see actually in the left-hand side of this painting, in the middle on the side, there's that greeny colour there. That's the phthalo turquoise mixed with yellow. It makes such a nice colour, such a rich colour. And there I am now using it also on the side. On the right-hand side at the bottom, I was using it then. So now this is really important. What I'm doing now is restating those darks because, these are really important parts of the painting that give it some depth. So in 30 minutes, it's really important that you state those and keep them crisp. So now I've got to warm up some of the flowers, some of the areas of the flowers. Oh no, that was background I think I was doing there. You wouldn't believe I only just painted this today. Been a long day. So I think that's a bit of burnt sienna and cadmium yellow I'm using there at the top, and again more of the cadmium yellow. And you can see how it gives a very vibrant, bright background. I will do a video on colours. I have my favourites, as we all do. I think my dog's seen a ghost. I live in an old cottage. It's it was built in 1720 or something. 1722 rings a bell. I can't remember exactly. And I swear she sees ghosts, because she'll just sit up. She's asleep one minute, and she'll just sit up, and she'll stare, and she'll be looking at something as though it's walking across the room, and then she starts shivering and shaking and barking, and she throws herself into my lap, which is what she's actually sitting on the back of the sofa, like staring at something, I have no idea what, and shivering into my shoulder. She's like on guard for something, I don't know. Anyway, I was going to record this out in my studio, but because I think the sound is better, but I didn't want to leave her on her own if she's scared of something. I'm a big softie like that. I love my dogs. So, just now getting to the stage where I can add highlights, and I wouldn't say details, but well, actually a little bit of detail, but very selectively, suggestively put in. So this flower particularly being a focal point, obviously gets a little bit more work and detail put into it. And then gradually, as the eye goes around the painting, they're just going to get more, they're going to have to get more abstract and distant and less detailed, because, you know, there simply isn't enough time in 30 minutes. But I think it's also very encouraging, if you're new, to see how much you can achieve in 30 minutes. And to see how sketchy it all starts. Sorry, my dog is really shivering. What's up? What's up? I think it's really encouraging, because I think, you know, certainly one of the things that put me off oil painting for years, even though I'd always loved illustrating and drawing and all the rest of it, and I'd tried watercolours, but I do like watercolours, but I never got into it really that much. I do quite like it more now, but what put me off oil painting was that I thought it was such an epic thing to have to do. I was going to have to spend hours over a painting. I was going to have to spend thousands on all the equipment. I was going to have my own art studio, and, you know, all these things. And I don't know why we all have that impression. I think YouTube has helped to dispel a lot of those myths, but I guess it's we've all grown up with the notion of the tortured artist in his big studio, surrounded by messy paint tubes. Actually, I do have those, and I don't know where it comes from, but I did not realise for a long time that you could actually achieve a really decent painting in such a short amount of time. And of course, if you're new, that's very encouraging, because you know, maybe if you've got a job or children, which I have, you don't have a lot of time, and you certainly don't have 4, 6, 8 hours or 3 weeks to labour over a painting. Well, of course, you don't need 4 hours or 6 weeks or whatever you think a masterpiece takes. Obviously these aren't masterpieces. These are just nice pieces for interior design. You know, you can frame it and put it on your wall, and it looks really nice, and nobody else has got it. But the point is, you shouldn't be put off, because it's not a huge investment of time or money to do these things. You can see I've got one cheap brush. In this painting, let me think, I've got, let's have a look, the phthalo turquoise, black. I did use black, and I can't remember which black I used for this. I think it was lamp black. Cadmium yellow, French ultramarine blue, cadmium red deep hue, I think, which I diluted with white, titanium white, another one, to make that sort of pink over there. I think I used a bit of burnt sienna to tinge the cadmium yellow this gold colour, so that you've got this sort of gold warm colour on the background. The grey probably was just made, that I'm using now, the grey probably just made from a mixture of old paint left on the palette. I do that sometimes to get a muddy, cool grey. I'll just sort of mix whatever's handy, really. Titanium, what else? Cadmium yellow, titanium white. I think that's it. I think that's all I use. So I don't know. I'd have to recap. I don't know how many paints that was, but that's not prohibitively expensive. You could buy sort of one of those a month, and each one would last you a fair while. You'd be able to do a goodly number of these paintings with that. Oh, and refined linseed oil. But you can buy small bottles of that. I buy big tubs, but you can buy little bottles of that. And I use that literally just to leave my brushes in overnight so they don't stiffen up. And sometimes if the paint's a bit thick, and particularly it dries out on this paper, I will dip my brush in it almost like as if it's water, and use it to just loosen everything up again. Sometimes I will even just take a dip of linseed oil and just soften where I think it's gone too thick. I'll just wipe it over with the brush and just gently soften the paint. What else can I say? The easel I use in these videos is dreadful, to be honest, and I wouldn't recommend buying it, but it was cheap and it shows. So I am actually desperate to get a new one, but I can't decide which one to get, so I will let you know when I've picked one. What else? Excuse me, it's late. What else do I need to tell you for this? So these highlights are now just titanium white, so you've got to be careful with the cool colours to keep the titanium white. If it's tinted at all, it must be tinted with other cool colours such as the blue. And then on the warmer flowers, you'll still be tinting with titanium white where it catches, but it will be mixed with the base colour, a warmer colour, whatever that might be. So I think I'm going to start painting my commissions. I have a commission to do actually, and I think I have a few, but I have one that I think would make a good video, so I might film that. But what was I going to say? I think I'm going to start painting on board. The reason I don't like painting on stretch canvas, I do paint on stretch canvas, but I don't like painting on stretch canvas because I don't. They're already pre-stretched. You don't get to choose really the texture. They're kind of just factory made, and I don't think they're difficult to frame like that. I just think they're really difficult to, my paintings I sell on eBay. I'm selling them to people just so that, I'm not selling to, I do sell to galleries, and I do sell to business people and resellers who sell them on other auction sites and other websites, and in their own shops, some of them. But my purpose isn't to sell to those people necessarily, although I'm not going to stop them buying, but my purpose is really just to get it out there and get it out to as many people as possible so they can have nice art. But and so on that basis, that, you know, those people, same people, are not necessarily going to want to go and get an expensive frame made. So I paint on these papers because you can, I mean, there is a whole array of frames you can just buy off the shelf that will fit this paper. Stretched canvas is different, because probably you'd be better off, if you buy a stretched canvas, you'd probably be better off taking it out of the wooden frame and just frame it, you know, as a flat canvas, as just the material. I don't like them on stretched canvas. I just think although some people like to hang them just as they are without a frame, I never think they look as nice without a frame. But I do think paintings on board with a linen or cotton cover that you paint on that, I think they can look nice without a frame. They can actually. So that's what I'm thinking of doing next. They look great with a frame, and I think they're easier to frame, but I also think that they can be, you know, hung as they are. Anyway, let me know what you think about that. So I've even got time, look, to add a few details. So isn't it amazing how long 30 minutes is? It's so much longer than you imagine. So again, restating values and colours, in this case mostly colours at this stage, just giving them a bit more depth, going over them, adding a bit of detail, just to give it a bit more depth and vibrancy. And you can see how you could get to a stage of realism by you know, you could continue after the 30 minutes, for instance, and start to tighten up the details and, you know, just get really into it. But obviously for the purpose of this daily challenge, we don't need to do that. So I think we're coming to an end here now. We're just going to finish off some pretty minimal details on this pink rose. We're running out of time. And, you know, whatever time I've got left, I will, you know, see if I can sort of add any definition to the edges of the flowers, darken the areas around them to make them pop a bit more, and, you know, things like that, and obviously sign my name. So there you go, I'm done. If you liked this video and you found it helpful, please click the notification bell, share and subscribe, and tell anyone who's interested in painting. And also please leave some comments below. I'm new to this video making lark, so if there's anything you want to know or any videos you'd like to see, then let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as you can see, I think I'm nearly done. And I will be, hopefully, I don't think I'll be posting a daily art challenge every day, because that would basically take up my time, because all the editing and everything takes a while. And I need to paint. So, but I will do them at least once a week, and hopefully more often than that. Right, there we go. I just showed you my brush there. That was the one I used the whole way through. And there we go. Hope you enjoyed it. See you again soon. Bye.